This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. On today's repair, we're going to look at this John Deere D105 that came in. If y'all know these D105s, they've got the general, what is it, the RT400, so not even the RS800, transmission in them, transaxle. Polymer, plastic, casing all around it. This mower's been taken pretty good care of, but the problem is I believe it's the driven pulley has literally popped off of it. The screw is not holding it in for some reason, and the driven pulley has literally popped off of this thing. So, in this video, I'm going to figure out how to do all this and the best way to do it. I don't know if the best way is to pull the whole front fender off of it. I'm thinking, I actually don't know, because the front fender involves pulling the whole tractor off here, pulling a bunch of stuff off and the dash and all of that, and I think it's just going to be the easiest to pull the transmission out of it and just do it off of the machine. So I'm going to work on doing that here coming up, and hopefully we can get this thing back going again. I can't really show it to y'all because of the lack of access to the to it. I can give y'all a little bit of a perspective before we decide to put it all back together, but I'll show you all I have to do in order to get it back together, and why I'm going to either take the fender off of it or remove the transmission altogether in order to do it. So I'll show you all that real quick, and we'll get started with it. Okay, so let's get over here on this side. I believe this is called the driven pulley, which is right there. Not really good light, but I can get y'all some. The screw on the top of it is popped off, as you can see, and there's a spring and stuff that goes on it as well. And you gotta mesh it all together and all that mess to try and get it back on. So I could possibly, well, no, it would involve me taking the cross member off here as well so we're just going to pull the transmission on this thing, not replace it. I wish I could replace it with a hydrostatic, but that's not in the cards, unfortunately. So what I'm going to do is, down here, there's at least 4 bolts that we got to take off. There's this arm here that we've got to take off to pull the hydrostatic. There's 2 bolts on the side here that need to be taken off, and probably a couple of other things. Again, access is terrible on this thing because of the fuel tank being in the back. So I'm going to take these bolts off, take the 2 bolts off the side here, and then any other linkages that I need to, which are just basically the brake linkage and this linkage right here. Hopefully that's all I got to do to take this thing off. Obviously remove the drive belt as well that goes from the engine to the transmission. And then we'll get it out, see what we can do with it, and hopefully we can get this thing pressed back down, screwed back in, and back up under here pretty quickly. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is try our darndest to not have to take this transmission off. I've jacked it up with my mower jack. The guy attempted to do this repair himself. He has not messed anything up to my knowledge. So, but what we've got is I went ahead and taken everything off here that went to this transmission. Because he's bought a whole new variator pulley and all that. So I wanted to put that on for him. So we'll start by doing that, and hopefully this will work. I'm hoping. So the first order of business is getting this variator pulley on, which, if you push the gas tank up and kind of slide it in like so, you can get that on without issue. So we're getting that on. I gotta get the CVT belt out of the way, and we'll slide it down. There's like some splines and whatnot that it slides down into. And I'll lube them up a little bit. And so that'll slide down into that. Just like, well, I'd say just like so, but it's not going to do it very easily. But it'll go down in there. We may have to tap it. I know I hate to do this, but we'll tap it down in there. And it'll go. It'll go down in there even further than that. But we'll get that down in there. And then what you'll do after that, there we go. So that's down in there. Next order of business is to get the, we'll put this belt over here. There should be some slack on it, which there is. And then you'll get your top piece on here, which is this one, and it should, I was able to get the other one on, so let's see if I can get this one on without having to take anything off. There we go. A little bit of finagling. I need to set the part brake on this so that I'm not worried about a belt. They also put a keeper on that main drive belt so that you can't get it off of the rear pulley that easily, and there's like no access to get it, so that's fun. Let's see, get back here, get it back on this rear pulley, that way we're not fighting it later. And this, so we'll get this, it's a bunch of, just like a hex key, like that. Okay, now, what it appears I've got to do, given the rest of the pieces that I have here, I have some sort of washer here that I don't have a clue what it goes to. It may go, it can't, can it go in between the shaft there? No, because it won't fit. I have no clue where this washer goes. Unless it goes on top of the, but it can't do that either. It's kind of weird. So what I've got to do next somehow is get this on and essentially get this spring on. And essentially what I've got to do is compress this spring all the way down somehow, some way, so that I can get this over top of it and the screw down all at the same time. So that's going to be interesting. Some people, I think some people may have used zip ties for this. So what I'm going to do, let me get this out of here. I'm going to do something to compress this spring. And so what I'll do is I'll compress this spring down somehow, some way. I don't know if I'll use zip ties or what, but get it so that I can push it, slide it onto this, and hopefully get it onto here so that I can thread the screw on. Well, 6 bolts and 3 linkages gets this thing out. This thing is not very heavy, so I think I can manhandle it back in there and not really have much of an issue. You gotta unplug your reverse switch. I took the arm off of that pedal up here because it seemed like it was a little bit easier than to try and take it off down here, because this stays in where the frame is, so that's fun. As you can see, it's a little dirty, but there's a linkage right here as well that you got to take off of the shift lever as well. So, and then your brake right here. And was there one more? I think that was it. I thought there was one more. Oh yeah, your pull it for neutral. So it's down again. I can take this, what, 8mm to get that off, so that I can pull this thing out. And literally I'm just going to press this thing down as hard as I can, get some thread locker on the screw it down as far as I can, and then we're going to put it back in there and see what happens. So it's not that difficult, like I said, to get it out. The 2 bolts for the tab for where it comes in right there, a 3rd bolt right there, the same on the other side, and those 4 linkage points, and you're good to go. So, and this transmission, like I said, is fairly light for what it is, so shouldn't be too difficult to get it back up in there. Regardless, I'm going to just push this spring down, get some thread locker, and hopefully we're done here after we put it back in. Alright, so after my thread locker puked all over the place because it was a little dried, but I got a ton of thread locker on it, I'll say that much. We've got it screwed in. Basically I just pushed it in with my hand here, and everything seems good. So I'm gonna have some lunch first because it's almost 1 o'clock. But after lunch, I'm gonna come back in here and put it all back together. I may time lapse it for y'all just to show y'all how I put it all back together. But yeah, so, and I'll clean out and vacuum some of this stuff off as well, make it a little bit nicer. Guy's a teacher, so he's on a teacher budget, so trying to keep this as budget friendly for him as possible with all of this as well. So get it all vacuumed up, cleaned up. We'll get this thing back in, and I'll throw you all on time lapse so y'all can kind of see what it's like for me to put this thing back in the machine, and then we'll take it for a drive, and hopefully this thing won't pop off anymore with all this thread locker and stuff on it. So we'll see. Y'all saw me put everything back on. Pretty straightforward. That was actually one of the easier transmissions I've put back on. Maybe because of the way I did it. I've never tried it being with the front wheels off the ground and then just jacking the back up. But the only thing I really messed up was where the shift linkage came in. I accidentally put the belt on the outside of that instead of the inside of that. But everything's on here, and so hopefully this thing drives again. I hope so. I know this guy will be extremely happy because he's been pushing his yard for a little while. I'm going to drive it around a little bit just to make sure, but that's not too bad. Hey, we learned to take the transmission out. That seems to have done the trick to replace one of them things. So there's some Loctite on that screw as well. I just don't think you got it tightened down right the first time. I don't know why it popped out on them, because it seemed like it was down there pretty good, unless it was a manufacturer defect. I've driven around. I don't think I imagine we'll have any more issues, and so hopefully we'll be done with this video after that. So just drove it around a little bit, checked my work, everything's good. I am going to let it sit overnight before he comes and gets it with the thread locker and stuff. So yeah, everything looks good on it. First time I've ever done one of these before, so I do hope that y'all found this video informative and helpful. I know these D105s, this is actually the first time I had to work on one of the transmissions of the D105s, so that driven pulley, or whatever you want to call it, was not that hard to change out. It was just a little bit stuck on there with the little bit of rust in the where the bottom portion of that pulley was. After I got that off, slid that on, found that it was best to, it probably, let's just say I saved myself in terms of struggling to just pull 6 bolts and 4 linkages to get this transmission out, so that I could just press that spring down and tighten it with the screw. We've got a ton of thread locker on it. It shouldn't go anywhere. We'll let that set up. I just wanted to make sure it was good, and we should be good. So hopefully, it's a little bit difficult to film under a tractor, but hopefully y'all are able to see kind of how this works, and hopefully get a good idea as to how to make it work if you need to replace one of these. The guy said that he was driving along and the spring just broke on the other one, so I don't know if the spring broke or it popped off the top, like it wasn't secured down all the way or whatnot. But he tried to put this on, and I don't think he could get the threads down all the way, and it popped off again. So I probably just drove it 300-400 feet. It has not backed out any on me, so I'm thinking that it's good to go, and hopefully it'll be good for him now for a while. We worked on this, I think this mower was given to him, but we worked on it earlier this year, carburetor, a couple of other things, just a quick turnaround for him. Fixed it on the trailer actually, and he took it home, cut with it for a little while, and started having these transmission issues. And so it's got 375 hours on it, which is getting up there for one of these transmissions. We'll see if it ends up lasting a little bit longer for him. The mower itself is actually in excellent condition, so I think it's a 2014 model, so right before they changed over to the E100s. and those machines. But I mean, overall, it works just fine, and hopefully we got all that fixed. At the very least, hopefully I showed y'all how to fix all that stuff if you're looking to do that on this machine. Thanks again for watching this repair video. I hope y'all found it helpful, and I will catch y'all on the next one.